Hi, this is Nahi Kazaza, and welcome to our bonus video on distinguishing between needs and values. So one of the things that we talked about, I wrote in our workbook on developing your values-based self-development plan, is that you want to ground your goals in your values, and sometimes you can get your values confused with your needs. So what is that all about? Well, the important thing to understand is that our values are what is important to us when we are not busy trying to survive. And the problem is that most of us human beings are busy trying to survive the majority of the time that we're alive. So something may seem really important, like a friendship, a relationship, having a promotion at work, making enough money. And you may think then, because you spend so much time thinking about those things and they seem so important to you, that those represent your core values. And they might, but they also might not, because you tend to need to make money in order to survive. You tend to need to have relationships in order to survive. And you tend to need to have status in order to survive in this world. And so in this video, we're going to talk a little bit about how to tell the difference between what your values are and what your needs are, and why that's even important, and how both of those relate to your ability to achieve goals that you set. So I think the first thing to think about to distinguish needs and values is that while they're both critically important to you, needs tend to be top priority and urgent because they have to do with your survival. And even though what you're motivated by doesn't seem to be critical to your immediate survival, like air, it tends to be something that your body naturally does, is drive you to pay very close attention to things that might be threats to your survival. And things like being in a tribe or having status in that tribe really matter. Needs are driven by emotions. It's a pre-verbal way that our body communicates to us to motivate us to do certain behaviors. And your needs are driven by negative emotions. So if you're feeling antsy, or if you're feeling frustrated or angry or anxious, typically in that moment, you're feeling what I'm going to call an unmet need. Now, it might be a temporary unmet need. So for example, let's say you're really, really thirsty. You're probably going to start feeling antsy. But if you have a glass of water right here, so you know there's plenty of water available, you're not going to feel as emotionally weird. But let's say you're in a meeting, you're feeling really thirsty, your throat's getting really dry, you know you're going to cough. People hate coughing these days, and there's no water anywhere around. And if you got up and left the meeting to get water, it would just be really embarrassing for whatever reason. Now you're going to start feeling a little bit of heightened anxiety because you're trying to figure out how to solve this problem. And that is what your body does. You need water, you're in a situation, the anxiety or the negative emotion rises to prompt you into some kind of action to solve this problem so that you can get what you need. Okay, now values are not as urgent, but they're actually more important because they're what you need to be happy. They're driven more by positive emotions. So for example, the awe you feel at a sunset or being in nature. If you live in a city and you really love nature, just going away sometimes and camping or hiking, being close to nature, you may have these really positive feelings. And the positive feelings may drive you to create these vacations or getaways to be close to nature again, especially if during the day, during your days, you're not exposed to nature a lot. That's just one example. Being with your family, if family is a high value, sometimes you're sort of driven to see your family, and it's more of a feeling like, I haven't seen this person in a while. I mean, you can have logic running it, but also you have these emotions. I want to be with my family. Let's say you love action and challenging your body, like windsurfing or something. We use some of those examples in the workbook. You will be driven by your excitement to challenge yourself. So your values tend to be driven by emotion too, but more positive emotions. And you can't fully engage in your values until all your needs are met. Now, the good news is your needs kind of ebb and flow, right? So you're not dying of thirst every moment of the day. You may be dying of thirst for a few times during the week. And in those moments, you're driven to find something to drink. But, once you're not thirsty anymore, you're not thinking about something to drink. Maybe you have a refrigerator full of water. So now you don't have to worry about water anymore. Then you're going to be thinking about different things. And that's how needs and values work together. Oops, I'm going the wrong way here. Hold on. There we go. Okay. This is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You may or may not be familiar with it. It's the most popular model related to human needs. And it was designed by a famous psychologist, Abraham Maslow, in the late 60s. But I find it still to be very, very relevant. You may see other models of needs out there, and they all work. But what I've noticed about all the other models that I've seen is they tend to fit into this model. I like to use this model because it's intuitive, it makes a lot of sense, and I've not seen any other model of needs that works any better than this for every understanding that people have had to develop about needs and how they work with your behavior. So if you're not familiar with Maslow's hierarchy, the thing to think about is the hierarchy is arranged in order of foundational importance. So these are the different broad categories of needs that you are driven by. Physiological, biological is at the bottom, right? So you've maybe heard the saying that you can live without air for 3 minutes, you can live without water for 3 days, you can live without food for 3 weeks. So these are things that are very, very important to your physiological survival. The temperature of the air, whether you're healthy enough, like if you have a fever, you're not going to be thinking about anything above physiological on the pyramid. So that's why it's a hierarchy. Anything at the very bottom, if you happen to, in any given day, at any given time, have an unmet physiological need where you're not feeling good, you're in pain, you're uncomfortable in an extreme enough way so that it distracts you from everything else, that's priority. The next level is safety shelter. That's just knowing that, you don't have, your life is not in danger in this moment from somebody literally hurting you. Shelter from the elements, right? So a place to sleep. Love and belonging is on top of that. So, we're not going to have as immediate of a consequence. Human beings cannot live in isolation. We need to be in a community or a tribe. And so you need some close relationships. We all need some close relationships. And so we're all going to be driven to create connections and relationships. And we're going to be driven by our emotions. So that's why you get crushes on people when you're young. That's why it really matters to you when you're young, whether or not you have friends or whether people like you. And that's why you do certain things to stay with your group. So when you are at work and suddenly you can't get your things done on your to-do list, you may start feeling panicky, and you may not have any idea why that relates to unmet needs. But if you not completing your work is going to make other people at work angry with you in some way, or you worry that it will, then you're being driven by a threat to your needs, right? Your relationships are threatened because you're not going to be able to hold up your end of the deal, for example. Self-esteem is your status. So not only do you need relationships, but we need status. We need to feel valued within our tribes. So another thing that happens a lot at work. So at work, you're normally going to be dealing with safety, love and belonging, and self-esteem needs. Safety is all about, are you going to get fired? Because a lot of us feel that we'll lose our homes and everything we have if we don't have an income coming in. And also there's health insurance, those kinds of things. So that's where safety comes into play. If we have any fears about losing your job, those needs get reared up. Love and belonging is about the other people at work actually liking us. So feeling like we have something in common with the other people at work and we're making at least some degree of friendships. And then self-esteem is our status. So how much we're valued, how much we're making a contribution, how much other people appreciate the value that we're bringing. And there are a lot of little words in there that are more nuanced that you can identify to describe your specific unmet needs, but in general, they fall into these broad categories. Self-actualization is more of a need to be creative and kind of do the things that you really like to do. So I would say that at the self-actualization level, you're not in the realm of survival anymore. You're actually in the realm of being motivated by your values. So often I'll split up this pyramid. I'll take the top off it and I'll say that level is you being motivated by your values. But if you've got anything going on in the level before, any holes in your pyramid, then you're going to be preoccupied with getting those holes filled. And so for most of us, we go through our lives trying to plug the holes in the dike of our needs pyramid. And if you can get those holes filled and filled for a long period of time, you get to enjoy living your life grounded in your values. And that's really what we're working towards when we do coaching and personal growth work. Okay. So how do needs and values relate to goals? Well, the thing that our ultimate goal is to live a life built in our core values. That's where happiness comes from. That's where joy comes from. So the pursuit of happiness, the pursuit of living a happy and fulfilled life, that's what we're all kind of wanting or going for. And you know what, when we're at our happiest, we're also at our most effective. So it's not selfish to want to be happy. In fact, if you're happy, you're less of a burden on those that you're with, and you're actually more valuable to other people. So you want to get happy. And the way you get happy is you spend more time with things that you value, with people that you value, doing things that you value, living your life in a way that reflects your values. So that's kind of what you want to get to. And those are the most important things. Your needs are the things that you need to survive, and they preoccupy most of your time and energy every time they're not met. They're like your holes in the dike. Your goals are the things that you want to accomplish. Now, especially accomplishment goals, tangible things that you want to get done, they sort of disappear as soon as you cross them off your list. Once it's done, it's done, it's gone. Needs also disappear once they're met. So if I'm really thirsty and I drink water and I'm not thirsty anymore, I don't think about being thirsty anymore. So the need to have my thirst quenched disappears. My values never disappear. So if I have a value of peace and harmony, even if I have tons of peace and harmony, I still want peace and harmony. So my values are things that I love so much that I want with me always. And if I could always be around these things, surrounded by these things, living my life in this way, then that's what makes a happy life for me. So your values are foundational, but if you're familiar with Stephen Covey's matrix of important and urgent, your values are important, your needs are urgent. And your needs are so urgent that they will pull your energy away from both your values and your goals. So why is that important? Because the most important work you can do for personal growth is identify your unmet needs and develop better ways to get them met. Whether you're aware or not, all of your behavior will be driven by your perceived unmet needs. And so if you're not aware of your unmet needs, then you're going to have a lot of stress and negative emotion. You're not going to have any idea where it comes from. You're going to think it comes from your situation, and you're going to be stressed a lot of your life. However, if you become aware of the needs that are driving you, you can actually get creative and begin to find ways to get those needs met. The most common self-defeating behavior patterns, so anybody that I work with who tends to get into their own way, the reason they get into that self-defeating behavior pattern is because they have an unmet need. It feels insatiable and they have no idea how to get it met, and they believe that it can't be met. So that's kind of deep work, but when you develop that self-awareness, it can completely change your life. So when you're working on your goals, if you run into any kind of internal resistance, like procrastination or anxiety or overwhelm, those may have very normal causes, and you can just kind of look at them, and the work that you do in your values workbook will help you overcome them. But if those things keep getting in the way and you suspect there's something deeper going on, it could be that an unmet need is getting in the way, and the steps that you want to take to achieve your goal are actually steps that feel threatening to you, like feel like they would put your needs into a more threatening situation. And that's why you kind of refuse to move forward on your goal, even though that goal is important to you. So resolving this internal conflict will clear your path. And that's the work that we specialize in. That's the most important work I think that you can do. So if you're interested in that work and you want to do that work, don't hesitate to reach out. This is my contact information. And the best way to reach out is to just email, text, call, schedule an appointment. I always do an initial call at no charge where we just talk about your situation. It doesn't take long, but it gives you an idea of what's possible if you're working with me, and there's no obligation. So if you decide that that's not the path for you, then I can also refer you to other places you can go, or at least end the call with some tangible things that you can do and put into practice on your own to move to the next level or resolve whatever conflict that you're facing. All right. Well, thanks for listening. Good luck with all of your goals. And if you run into conflicts, think about your unmet needs.